Do you guys think that I fight a seller on the sales price in my first, second, or even third conversation? No, I don't. If it's a cash deal, I do. We're not talking cash on Sis's question. We're talking creative finance. So what happens is, let's say step one, I go to the seller and I go, you know what? Talk to my partner. If you're as serious about selling the property as I think you are, tell me this. If I gave you $450, would you allow me to pay that to you in monthly increments of $1,250 a month? Seller says yes. Perfect. Let's get an agreement together, send it over to title. Hey, title, here's what we're going to do on the note and deed of trust. We're going to do $455,000 to the seller in monthly increments over the course of 30 months. That's going to be the note, and the deed of trust will be secured against the property to secure the note. Okay. Title company says, great, perfect. You open it up escrow, all that kind of stuff. Let's say that the seller says, I like it, but and you don't get a contract. What you have to remember is you shouldn't be fighting the seller on purchase price or any of that kind of stuff in a creative finance situation in the very beginning. What you need to do is utilize what they want to get what you want. Okay. Wow, $450, that's incredibly high. But if I was able to get it to you, and you keep the conversation going to the point, here's where there's a point. Okay. There's a point in a conversation with a seller where all of a sudden you hit a point of critical mass and everything just becomes incredibly easy. Okay. Does everybody agree with that? You hit a point of trust and rapport and all that kind of stuff. Right here, it's like, what's your company name? What's your website? There's a point right here in any conversation you have with a seller is about right here on this timeline with talking to the seller. Who are you? I can't remember you. What's going on? I don't know about that. I got to talk to my cousin. You know what? I got to talk to my attorney, who is also my cousin, right? You're going to hear all these conversations, right? Do we all agree with this? This is the biggest challenge of this conversation. And the goal is to build the rapport with the seller to the point where you're not fighting them, you're not doing anything, and you get them on the same page as you. And this is about this point, okay? So for example, I can go to a seller, and most of my conversations, you guys have heard me do this 100 times. You've heard me on actual seller calls. Hundreds and hundreds you guys have heard me do this. Most of you have heard me do it live. And the conversation gets to a point where I go, you know what? I really want to make this a win-win, but unfortunately, I don't know how to make this happen for both sides. Do you have any ideas? That's this right here. If I pulled that off, if I tried to pull that off in this area, it is not going to happen. I have to get that seller to a point. So in the beginning, $455 at $1,250 monthly payments is what the seller wants. We move along, I build the relationship, and at this point, I can go, you know what? The more and more we think about it, I'm just having a really hard time penciling this and making it work. I want to work with you, and we want to make this a win-win. Do you have any ideas of how we can overcome X? Because you know what you've done is you've put the seller on your team, your same team. Okay, but what most knuckleheads do is they go like this. This is what they do. And I've heard this. It's so good. They get on the phone with the seller. Okay. They get on the phone with the seller, and we have already established that right here on the timeline, this is the point of no return, the point where I've built so much rapport and credibility that the seller is okay with me. They'll call me, they answer the phone. They call me, I call them, they answer the phone, right? What most wholesalers and new investors do is they don't get past this point and they just think seller wants too much money. Mm-hmm. Seller wants this, seller wants that. They're not ready. They're this. And the one thing they didn't do is they didn't build enough rapport, or they lost the seller. Okay. They lost the seller because you chose to fight a battle before it was time. I hear people's calls frequently and they fight the seller on their price. You've got to get past the first conversation. And everybody's trying to get a close on their first conversation. That's not it.